Hello, everyone. In this video, I am just going to walk you through the steps on how to fork and clone the precourse-git-practice repo that you should have access to, and then show you how you can go ahead and open that repo locally in VS Code to try out some of the exercises. So first things first, do make sure that you are logged into GitHub. A very easy mistake to make if you are occasionally signed out, but just make sure that your icon or obviously your profile is showing here. If it isn't, go ahead and log in to GitHub first. But otherwise, you should then be taken to this page, which is the repo. And underneath, we can see that the README instructions have been displayed for us with the exercises that we need to do. So in order to do these exercises, we need to make sure that we have created our own version of this repo and that we have cloned it down locally to our own machine. We can see that this is the North Coders repo. Here, it shows us who owns this repo. And in the URL as well, we have North Coders there. So in order to make our own version of this, what we want to do is go ahead and fork it. And so if we press the fork button here, it will take us to a screen where we can go ahead and create our own version. By default, it's going to fill in the repository name. This can be changed if you did want to, and you can also add a description, but I'm fine with everything the way it is. And do make sure that copy the main branch only is checked here. And then if I press create fork, it's going to go ahead and create my forked version of this repo. It might take a few seconds with a loading screen, and feel free to ignore the give access to people you work with. You don't have to do anything there. And then when that's gone through, I now have my own forked version of this repo. And I can see that because now I have this forked icon. And rather than North Coders, it's now my name that's here. And I can see that it's been forked from North Coders. I can also tell that I'm in the forked version of my repo in the URL, because here it says calamu21, which is my GitHub username. So this is great. We've now gone ahead and got our own version of it, but what we want to do is clone it down locally into our own machine. So if I navigate to this green code button here, if I press that, I'll get a drop down and the HTTPS tab should already be highlighted. And then underneath that, I have a link to this repo. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy that by pressing on the copy button. And that's all that I need to do inside of GitHub. So the next step is for me to go ahead and open my terminal. And so here I have my terminal. Don't worry if yours looks slightly different. That's okay as long as you've got access to the terminal to be able to navigate through your directories. But I am just going to CD here in my root directory. Sorry, not CD, ls in my root directory. And I can see that I've got some folders that are already created, but I'm going to go ahead and create my own North Coders folder to store all of the other repos that I might need as part of the bootcamp. So I'm going to do that by using the mkdir command to make a new directory. And I'm just going to put in North Coders here. If I ls again, I can see that I now have created a North Coders directory, and I'm going to go ahead and cd into North Coders, which should hopefully, if I ls, be completely empty. So there's nothing to show. The next step is for me to git clone using the git clone command. And then all I need to do is paste in the URL that I copied from GitHub. If in some terminals, Command V, Control V don't work as keyboard commands, you can right click and paste it manually. That's a-okay. So if I go ahead now and execute that by pressing enter, I can see that it has cloned into precourse-git-practice. It's created this new directory, and inside of it, it's put in all of the files from my repo, making this a Git repository. If I ls now, I can see that I have a new directory, and I'm just going to go ahead and cd straight into that. Awesome. My terminal, let's zoom in slightly here. My terminal has this git main to show that I'm inside of a Git repo. If you don't have that, that's a-okay. Please do not worry. Different terminals for different things. But that's how I know that this is a Git repo. And then if I want to open this in VS Code, all I need to do is use the code command. And then if I press full stop, it's going to open up the current directory inside of VS Code. And very helpfully, it's done that on a different screen. So I'm just going to drag that in. And you should be able to see that you now have the exact same structure as the forked repo on GitHub. So we've got some directories and some files here. And then I also have access to a README. It is entirely possible, if you have not yet installed the code command through VS Code, you might get a little error message here that says something like code command not found. That's okay. We can go ahead and install that. If I go back into VS Code, and then if I use Shift Command and P on a Mac, what I can do is go ahead and if I type in code, you'll see that I have the shell command install code command in path. And what that is going to do is give access to that code command so that in future you can choose to open a repo from the terminal in VS Code by using code. So I'm going to click that, shell command code successfully installed. And then if you try it again, you might have to close down your terminal and reopen it. You should have access to the code command. If that still doesn't work, what you can do is when you open a new instance of VS Code, if I go ahead and open folder here, what I can do is manually select my North Coder's precourse-git-practice. You can also go ahead and open a folder that way. When you open VS Code without initializing it through Code Plus, you'll often have an option here that says open folder, for example. So if you can't get code to work in the terminal, it's okay to go ahead and open it manually by selecting open and folder inside of VS Code. Awesome, and that is everything. I now have access to this repo. I can go ahead and type in it. One handy tip, though, before I leave you, is this README isn't looking too great. We can see that we've got some weird formatting going on, things such as this. So if I go ahead and right-click on the README file, the top option is Open Preview. And if I press that, you'll see that I now have access to the instructions in a nicely formatted way, rather than kind of the not as attractive markdown that we had previously. So for this repo, all you need to do is go ahead and work through the individual tasks. The useful commands are included above. And then after each one, what you want to do is go ahead and add the files that you have changed, commit them and push them up to your repo. Hopefully that was useful, and I will catch you all later. Bye.